on Cars and Bids is this super rare 1994 Ferrari 348 GTB.
Bid Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Haggerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds.
Okay, so I don't really know a ton about these cars, but in 1993 or 1994, they came up with an upgrade, just a few little improvements for the model, for the platform, to help this car sell in its final year as it was growing a little long in the tooth. Also, as you may remember, when this car dropped, Acura also dropped a bombshell on the sports car and exotic car world by dropping the aluminum NSX. The NSX was, highly lauded for having incredible handling dynamics and everyday reliability and usability in a beautiful and space-age all-aluminum frame and construction. The 348 was kind of humiliated by that car, and at the end of the 348's life, it got the upgrades that are on this particular car right here. When it says 348 GTB, you get the extra 20 horsepower. You get slightly more dampening from the suspension and a little bit wider track. There might be a few other upgrades, but I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. Super cool car, and I can tell you, when it comes to 348 GTSs and GTBs, there were way more spiders built at the end of this car's life than there were Berlinettas or coupes. So I have, since I learned about these last versions of the car in the United States, I have not seen one come to market. And this particular one is really special because it's showing just 35,000 miles. It's offered out of, Ontario, Canada. And yellow, I think, is kind of rare on the 348, JP. What do you say? I think most of these cars are red, and a lot of them are black and silver. But the yellow is rare indeed, and yellow Ferraris seem to bring all the money. So, JP, I send it back to you. I know you want one of these days. My guess is you'll probably get a black Spider, just a hunch. But if this yellow 348 coupe Berlinetta found its way to my garage, I would not kick it out of bed for eating cookies. So, JP, I send it to you. Did you know about the special version of the last year of the 348, or is this kind of the first time you're hearing of it?
No, of course. I mean, I don't know. What is it with the yellow cars in you lately? At least this one doesn't have the Ronald McDonald red interior like that 993 C2S. No, I love this car. I love the color. I've owned yellow cars and they're fun. It's not my first choice. And most people would want this one because it has the hard top. There's no Targa top. There's no Spider business. That isn't me personally. You're absolutely right. I would rather have a black Spider or a black GTS with the Targa, but this car, look, the horsepower in these. People bring up the NSX almost automatically when you talk about this car. It's kind of annoying. They are apples to oranges. They are, I know that, yes, they're mid-engine sports cars and stuff, and the Japanese car was really trying to emulate this car, and, the Ferrari 328 ahead of this car. But, even though the NSX is probably the better car in every measurable way, this thing still is this thing has soul. This thing is a Ferrari. When you drive that gated transmission in one of these and row through the gears, that clunkiness is just so spectacular. I don't care if it's slower than the NSX. I mean, this car does have more power than the NSX. I think the NSX of this generation still
270.
Still has well under 300 horsepower. And you kind of, 300 horsepower is, anything above 300 horsepower in a sports car, you're usually going to have a lot of fun. And this car with a little bit extra poop in the final year is, I think it's just that extra punch that really makes this one that much more fun. And with that rigid hardtop, this car is just going to be a blast. Love this thing. Isn't this the bad guy? Isn't this the car that they had in the show Lilyhammer? Anybody a fan of that show on HBO? I think it was, or something. The the gangsters got killed in it. Anyways, somebody in the comments below. What do you think of this car, Wade?
So I have two thoughts. On the one hand, this is a really nice example of a relatively rare car. Yellow is the OG Ferrari color, and for as highly desirable as it is, it's also not very common. So there's an extra element to that. Super low mile, great example. However, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this is a Canadian market example with kilometers and all.
It's a European car.
It's a European
that was
car.
then exported to Japan. And from Japan, it was imported to Canada, and it is for sale out of Canada currently.
Interesting.
But it's got kilometers based on it being in Japan.
So that makes it a little tough, I think. Regardless of where else in the world it was, it's not a U.S. market example. And those tend to kind of bring the values down a little bit of any car. So it is a really nice example of this particular car, but it's probably not the nice example of this particular car. It's close. I think it'll be a collector car and somebody will really enjoy it. But I don't think it's going to be that car that's in the Ferrari collector's garage for that reason. So I'm kind of bringing my expectation down a little bit because of that.
All right, Mental, where are you at?
I'm with Wade a little bit. There's some other aspects of this car that are making me a little wary. I'm not a Ferrari expert, but you are absolutely right. You park this next to an NSX, and you're going to get all the attention. Period. Dot. And they do make these wonderful sounds. But as Anthony pointed out, these are horrible photos. Yeah. And in a couple of them, you could see he just went out there and did this with his. It's not even a DSLR. It's like literally a digital camera. The tires are they're Fusions. These are, and granted, I get it. He lives in Canada, so he needs them all seasons. I'm seeing the signs of someone who bought a car, and while they didn't neglect it, they didn't love it. And Ferraris don't like to not be loved. I am wary. It's a money pit.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I was going to go, Mental, when it's time for my bid. It's like missing a center cap on the back, on the back left rear. Well, let's get to bids. Michael Deeb, what's going to happen with this auction?
All right, so a couple things. I just want to mention a few things about how rare this car. They only made 252 348 GTBs for the world. Again, for the 3 years prior, they were TBs, but the GTB, which has the 320 horsepower and the upgraded suspension and track, there's only 252 of these. And then this car has a 2B exhaust, and I will also go back and say that yellow piping on the black leather seats is also really rare. The piping was not a popular option on 348s back in this era. So despite the car being out of Japan. The other thing, too, regarding Wade's point, which I thought was really good, that a car coming in from Canada would be difficult. This car is 25 years or older, so it will be easy to get in. And while Ferrari market used to be very picky about gray market cars, the market does recognize that some cars that are gray market cars have advantages, especially performance advantages. And it's an opportunity to get a car that's really rare. And again, there's only 252 of these, and I'm not sure they ever brought the Berlinettas to the United States. So this is a rare car that you would have access to bringing in. And so I think it should do well. That being said, what the value on this thing on cars and bids out of Canada is anybody's guess. With about 4 days to go, our car is sitting at $40,000 on 7 bids, which is not a lot. I'd like to think it's going to bring twice as much of that, but I think the car is worth 3 times as much of it. I think if this car were on BAT, if it were on a U.S. title, and there wasn't all these like cheap tires and missing hubcaps and all that sort of thing, good photos, this has the potential to be a $120,000 plus car all day long. But on this platform and with these photos and, looking a little haggard and out of Canada and not really loved, I'd say $80,000 is all that's going to happen here, where it will fail to sell. So I'm gonna just start the bidding at $80,000 and tell you with an asterisk, this car won't sell at that number. So where you at, John Paul?
70,348. This thing's DOA. This is a dealer that is bringing this terrible sale to market. I mean, look, you cannot get away with presenting a car like this as a dealer. Mental, click on the Carfax on this thing. There are no records on the Carfax. None. There's when it was brought in the country, and that's it. There's no way. I mean, look, this is a car that I would absolutely consider owning, but I wouldn't do it on an auction. I wouldn't do it one of these things where this is the kind of car that you have to have a PPI done. And unfortunately, on an auction, it's really hard to do a PPI. It's not like you can say, hey, I want to go ahead and spend the $500 to have the Ferrari place take a look at it when you may not even buy the car. So, Wade, what do you think?
I don't even think this car needs a PPI. I think from 3 feet away, you can tell it's kind of neglected, and that's really a shame, because for $5,000 more, putting it all the way it's supposed to be, you could probably get another 10 or 15 or 20 grand out of it. For $500 taking better pictures, you could probably get more money out of it. So it's super frustrating, because part of me feels like the dealer acquired this car from somebody who was just kind of tired of it taking up space in their garage. It was probably under a cover for 6 months, and it just is what it is. And that's kind of a shame for both the person who's selling it, because they're missing out on probably 10 or 15 or 20 grand. And the person who's buying it is not really getting the car that they should be. I don't know. I mean, it should be a $100,000 car all day. It's probably going to stall out at like 77 grand. And part of me thinks it might sell for that. It depends on what the relationship is with the dealer and the seller, if it's on consignment, if they bought it, if I don't know. But I mean, 77 grand, and hope for the best.
What do you think, Mental?
Mental, what do you got?
I honestly, I would not buy on or bid this car. I'm going to say 65,000, and it probably does sell, because as Wade said, whoever owns it, they're done with it. And that's why it's just so cheaply presented.
Yeah, and getting stuff out of Canada isn't always easy. And on top of that, again, I know we keep talking weather, but I mean, getting a car out of Ontario here pretty soon, that is not going to be something.
Yeah, you better hurry up.
Yeah, you better if you are the winning bidder on this car, get a truck to the border and get this car that day, because this is the kind of time of year where a snowstorm could hit. Yeah.
Now or May.
Yeah, and
basically.
you are toast. This car is in the garage for months. What do we got for bids on the peanut gallery there, Mental?
All right, everyone's like that. Mike Meyer says 70K. We've got Randy says 72,348, and Yuri said 74, and then added that he probably overbid.
Yeah. All right. Let's, what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas.
A new sports car!
DeMuro found an out of the country, a Canadian market. It's actually a Japanese market, but it was imported to Canada. 1994 Ferrari 348 GTB. As we mentioned when we covered this car a couple of days ago, the 348 GTB was only made in the final 2 years of production, which I believe were 94 and part of 95. Some of the early cars might have been produced and sold in 93. But as the car ran for like 4 or 5 years, the final year got at bump in horsepower and an upgrade of the suspension tuning, namely due to a wider track and different valving, I think, of the shocks and springs. So this car is kind of a .2, but they didn't make a lot of them. And as I continue to go down this rabbit hole of trying to find one of these in the United States, I think the story is that we only got the 348 GTS, which was the full Spider version of this car in 94. And I don't know that they brought in any actual GTBs. So this car in the United States is a rare sight indeed. And it's not even here yet. This car was offered on Cars and Bids out of Ontario, Canada, showing 35,000 miles on the odometer. And as we looked at it, and everybody was glancing at the photos while I was reading the copy, the car looked a little worse for the wear. Certainly rough and definitely not treated to like what you would expect to be like a $1,500 Ferrari detail in your driveway of your luxury home. This car looked like it just came home from a rally. Anyways, so our car shows up here on Cars and Bids without much of a Carfax history because it's only been in Canada for a few short years. It really, by all accounts, looks like the consignor is just offloading the car because they didn't do anything to spruce it up before they photographed it and brought it to market. With that in mind, I think this car on an American title in excellent condition would be like a $120,000, $130,000 car because there are none of them here. Even though you can get 348s for considerably less money, this would be the best of the breed if it was on an American title. But being on Cars and Bids, located in Canada in the condition that it was in, I started the bidding out JP at $80,000, and nobody else came close to my bids. John, you came in at $70,348. Wade was sort of close to me at $77,000, but then Mental came in again at $65,000. And none of the other people that I remember that were watching with us live had any bids anywhere near me and Wade, if I remember correctly. So everybody was really bearish on this car. So John, I send it back to you. Yellow Ferrari. Anybody chiming in on the text line? And what do we think?
Well, Chris popped in. I love the car, but I think the problem that we all had with it, other than just being a little rough, was the fact that this is out of country, right? This car is not in
Canada.
America, and that is a problem. I mean, it's just a problem. It's a pain in the ass. Who wants to deal with that? A car has to be pretty darn spectacular to want to add all the extra paperwork and import stuff. I mean, look, if you look at the prices of cars in Europe right now, I mean, our friend Chris Carbine, he is currently, I think he's leaving Germany like right now, like as we speak, right? There he is. Yeah.
He comes in, chimes in. What's up, Chris Carbine?
So
ears are burning.
He's throwing pictures of cars that are for sale there that, their prices are way, way lower, which sounds really attractive. But, if it were worth it, there would be car dealers buying cars from there and dragging them to America. But most people in the know, most people that have ever had to deal with it know how big a pain in the butt it is. And it's just not worth the hassle and downright risk that's involved. I mean, sometimes cars from other countries don't even have freaking titles and stuff like that. I mean, Canada doesn't issue titles on cars anymore. So it's just, you're asking for a headache. Our good friend Rami, he has a couple of cars. He got that 993 RS from London that originated in Japan. I still don't know if that car is legal to really be in America, but he's out driving around. He's one of those few people that doesn't care, but most of us actually do. I mean, I'd genuinely be concerned. It's the kind of thing where literally, if you do the paperwork wrong, there is a greater than 0% chance that the authorities will not just seize the car, but they will crush the damn thing. So you've got to dot the I's and cross the T's. What do you think, Wade?
Yeah, no.
Wade thinks that Rami's not even legal in this country. That's what Wade thinks.
The thing about Rami is his personality takes him all the way. So I think he'll be okay. The rest of us schmucks, though, not so much. But yeah, no, I agree. It's tough because this isn't an F40 or an F50. This isn't like the Ferrari. It's not something that people from Dubai are looking at or people from Europe are looking at. These are people maybe in Canada that are looking for it, maybe in the US that are looking for it. But the thing that irks me most, to your point, Michael, is that not even for $2,500 worth of detail, for $200 detail would have made this car look decent. Yep. And part of me is like, why bother? Like, what's the point? If you're not going to make it look nice, why even list it? And I'm kind of wondering if maybe there's more to the story, that if he doesn't even care to have it detailed, does he even care to sell it proper? Like, has it been maintained? Has anything happened to it in the last 6 months? It doesn't look like anything's happened to it. So, if that's the case, this person could be looking to dump it to anybody who walks in the door, and it doesn't matter if they're from Canada or anywhere else, and it doesn't matter what the price is. They're just done with it. Fine, but kind of a bummer.
Isn't this kind of consistent with Doug DeMuro, though? I mean, we've talked about it since the beginning of Cars and Bids, that their attention to aesthetics are the worst across the board. I mean, P-Car Market does a better job curating and making sure that their ads have at least some modicum of, respectability. Like, okay, we're gonna make the car look good, and they're gonna bitch at the seller to take better photos or to clean the car. They're gonna pressure the seller to present the car as best they can. I feel like at Cars and Bids, it's like, put a t-shirt on, some sneakers that look like hiking boots, and you're good to go. It's gonna sell, right?
Wade, let me jump in here because, John, I will bring your attention back to 2021 when we really started to take off and do the show, a lot. And our biggest beef with with Cars and Bids was always that they allowed people to shoot cars in a parking lot in front of dumpsters. How many times did we cover a cool car that was shot behind a store in an empty lot with like garbage cans in the background, and that Doug DeMuro would put a car like that next to a nice car? Like, he'd have a 6-figure car, and then he'd have like a $5,000 Subaru shot in front of a dumpster, right next to each other on his homepage. And we thought for a long time that Doug wouldn't survive, that he wouldn't make it on there for a minute. So
well, he certainly proved us wrong in that sense. Zach Miller is on in the chat. Zach, are you guys putting more pressure on sellers to present their cars, in a better way? Do you guys tell these guys to wash their car? And if they don't, why do you still list it? We're all you just hopped in, and I'm not sure if you saw earlier we were talking about this 348 that just literally looks dirty. It looks like the guy didn't even wash it, and you just snap some shots. Why does Cars and Bids say, okay, we'll go ahead and list it this way? Shouldn't you guys put some pressure on the guy to say, hey, no, we're not going to list this if you're not going to take the time? We'd sure.
Yeah. We used to tease that Cars and Bids was like a public service and that you could just put your car on there like it was free classified, like Craigslist or something. But we always hoped that that they would have like a bouncer and would really curate the cars and refute buckets of photos if they didn't meet a certain minimum standard to sort of raise their game. I don't know that they ever did that, but they achieved mass adoption and they're going gangbusters. And now since the summer, Cars and Bids has been getting a lot of exotic cars. So does anybody out there want to venture a guess as to what this Ferrari brought on Cars and Bids over the weekend? Is there anybody that's watching that wanted to jump in and help with the results on this one?
I'm not seeing any bids. Oh, here we go. Got some response from Zach over at Cars and Bids. It's a balance, but fair points. We do pressure people, but unfortunately, lots of folks don't listen. We got to get Zach on the show one of these days, because I'd sure love to hear to actually make this a conversation rather than just going back and forth on comments and chats. And Zach, we do appreciate you chiming in here. Is there? I would think that there would be at some point a conversation within the powers that be at Cars and Bids to say, okay, not only are we going to pressure these guys, but if they don't listen, then we're not going to list the car. I think at the beginning of Cars and Bids, when they were out there trying to compete with the juggernaut that is BAT that kind of started everything, I think it was probably the type of deal where they're like, well, look, we need the cars on the platform. We need listings. We have to have listings. So maybe they let some of that stuff go. But, Doug DeMuro is a $37 million man now. He is, the Cars and Bids has become a thing unto itself. So I would think that they would have the ability to apply more than just the pressure or the ask. I think it's the kind of thing like, no, you got to do it right, or we're not listing at all, or maybe we're going to charge more for it. I don't know. Well, we've got some bids coming in here. We've got, Pat's on board. Hey, Pat, what's up, man? 64K says Pat about the 348. Pat LeBeau, you say BAT. Oh, Pat just, there's Sorry, I'm confusing some things about a Dodge Avenger. I think Pat, you're not saying 64 grand for the Dodge Avenger, are you? Sahan is coming in at 75 on this thing. Wait, Zach's got more comments. Yes, I worked with a 348 guy directly from today's sale. He went through 4 rounds of photos even to get it to that stage.
I don't want to see.
Holy cow!
I don't want to see what it started with. It was probably in his garage covered.
Oh my God,
Zach,
that is crazy.
Zach, text us a photo from the first bucket. We have to see it right now. Come on.
Oh my gosh.
tough.
Did you say wash the car, spend $50 on a detail like Wade from Tech Daily says?
It's so odd. Even on a smaller scale, I wonder if the platform can say, look, on average, a washed car gets 5% more, 10% more. Good pictures. Like if you're not going to be motivated by money, like a higher sale price of the car,
trouble.
Hey,
wait.
Well, hold on, guys. Hold on. I got to jump in here. Zach's commenting again. For those of you who are just listening, Zach
this
from
is some
Cars and
vital
Bid.
information.
Yeah, this is great. A lot of higher value cars we outright decline if the photos do not reach a certain level. This is a quote from Zach Miller. But we also like to give people a chance. We've had people mature into more sophisticated sellers lately. Okay, well that's cool.
That's good, yeah.
That's good to hear. You're kind of easing them into it, and I guess you can't make a super hard line.
I want to go back to Wade's point because it's really good. Wade
said, hold on. I hold that thought because Zach's still hopping in. For lower value cars, we don't fight as hard, but we've been pushing harder with our sellers due to many points that you bring up. So that's cool. All right. Well, look, good. I feel good. I feel like maybe we can take some credit for that. Probably have no ability to take credit for that. What were you going to say about Wade's point there? Sorry.
Offline, when we were at Vegas Auto Fest, Wade said to you and I that the average person out there, think of the average person and realize that half of the people that are watching the show or that are in fact consigning their cars on these online auction points are dumber than that, and so to Wade's point, if the big auction platform said, hey, 5% of the you'll get a 5% increase in value on your car if you wash it, I promise you a third of the cars on the platforms are going to be wet in a driveway when they're photographed, dripping wet. We've seen that happen before. I've had cars come to me at Hagerty where they're submitting cars to Hagerty and they're sending me a photo of the car dripping wet in their driveway. And I'm like, we cannot use these photos. Like, it's insane. So I 100% believe what Zach is bringing up, that they are refuting photos and they are refuting cars and we just don't see it. And you still can't get through to these people because, as Wade said, most of the people aren't as astute or as passionate about the cars as us idiots up here. That's a natural hard fact. It's a tough pill to swallow, but I think Wade was right when he said it to us a month ago. So thank you for that take.
If they're private sellers, I totally get all of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this seller's a dealer.
Well,
I can't defend that.
Not all dealers are created equal. Some are dealers with a dealer's license out of their house or out of their whatever that kind of go around and take pictures. They're more consigners in their spare time. I've seen it both ways. So maybe this was a product of that he's a dealer when he feels like it that month when an interesting car comes up.
Hey,
it is what it is.
JP, as Wade says that, I'm looking at the Cars and Bids listing for the Ferrari, and it's out of Ontario, Canada, but it's called German Motors. What?
Oh.
Not German Motors here in Las Vegas.
I'm joking. I'm just joking. I'm teasing
Zach
Daniel.
hopped in. Zach hopped in one more time. That sounds like he's agreeing. 100% agree. Top photos are arguably the number one driver of results, and in my opinion, even lower value cars deserve all the juice on pictures. So, my takeaway from this whole conversation is I'm just glad to hear that it's a conversation at all at Cars and Bids. I think that bodes well for Cars and Bids, and only, the more pressure they put on the sellers to present their cars as good as they possibly can, the better. And it's better for the entire ecosystem of online car auctions because it's so grating. But all right, so all that, what happened with this car? We've got a few bids. I think I'll back up and say Sahan hopped in at 75. Pat was at 64. Pat, I don't know if you noticed, but this is a special 348. It's not just a regular 348. So
I'll explain it to Pat over dinner. He's in
Sure.
Oakland tonight. He's Ubering in to meet me at the Nob Hill Cafe as soon as we're done with the show.
all right, what happened with this car?
Astute. Sahan, I don't know how to spell astute, just so you know. So JP, you might see this car near you because Cars and Bids, Doug DeMuro and Zach Miller sold this car for $85,000 on 15 bids. This car is eligible for 25-year importation, whatever they call it, forgiveness. This car might wind up at a parking lot or a Cars and Coffee or at an Italian car mechanic near you. What do you think of that result, JP? This car brought more money than any of our highest bids. I think I was the high man at 80. So if you're keeping score at home, folks, that's for me 2 wins in a row. What do you think, JP? 85 grand for the Ferrari.
I think the Ferrari would have brought another. I mean, we all talked about this when we were bidding on the car last week. We all thought the number should be higher, but because the dealer, this seller, refused to wash it and take good pictures, that hurt the car. If it brought 85. There was at least $10,000 in the wash bucket with that, soap and water that this guy could have gotten and bought all the sponges that he needs. What do you think of the results, Wade?
Yeah, I agree. I think 85 is actually a pretty decent price, all things considered. And I would be very curious to see if it stays in Canada or if it goes somewhere else. I think it's the kind of car where somebody with a little bit of time and effort, and if they were to import it, they could probably get a lot more money out of it with not a whole lot of effort if they're familiar with importing if they need to. But a pretty good price, honestly, I'd say.
Are we all just wrong? Does it matter? Do the pictures and whether the car is clean just matter? I mean, this car, that's a big number, way higher than, like you said, any of us even said.
I mean, I think it could be a 6-figure Ferrari, though. I mean,
Yeah.
putting it all together, it probably should
this
be.
This car is worth $45,000 more than it went for if it's on a domestic title and if it's all cleaned up and you got recent service receipts and all that stuff. But you might have to spend that money to get that money. So I don't know if there's a ton of equity in it because you might have to spend a lot to get it to that value. But when it's all said and done, if somebody bothers to do it, this is $125,000, $130,000 Ferrari.
All right, what do you guys think of the results of this amazing 348 on Cars and Bids? Congratulations, Doug DeMuro, on getting this car out the door. We all think that money was left in the soap bucket. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below.
Nerds! Get those nerds